Good morning, it's 8 o'clock on September 7th, 2015. It's a Monday, it's the holiday, so we have a long weekend to enjoy some smoked brisket on the Weber Smoky Mountain. Last time I did a brisket, I learned a few things. So we're going to factor in some of that stuff with what we do today. If you know a little bit about brisket, or if you know a lot about brisket, or if you remember my last video about brisket, you'll remember we talked about two parts to the meat. The smaller, thinner, flatter part, aptly called the flat, and the larger, rounder part called the point. If you take a look here, you can see this delineation of muscle versus fat. The flat actually runs the entire length of the brisket, and the point comes on over the top. Because of that, cooking it's kind of tricky, because obviously the flat is going to cook faster than the point. So with a piece of meat this size, which is only 10.5 pounds, I'm basically going to write off the flat and figure it's going to get overcooked. So the tactic for today is going to be to cook the point to the proper temperature, forget about the flat, although it'll still be pretty tasty. It's just going to be overdone. Let's talk about the rub. The rub is a really simple mixture, 50% kosher salt to 50% ground black pepper. So we go on pretty heavy. There's a nicely rubbed brisket. So we'll put this on a smoker that's 225 degrees and cook it until the meat temperature reaches 195. It's going to be a little less than 1 hour per pound. Some people like to trim the fat off of the brisket. I'm not going to do that today. We're going to cook it with all the fat on. That's part of the experiment, because I want to see how that affects the quality of the meat after the cook. It's been 9.5 hours and the meat temperature is at 190, which is 5 degrees below our target temperature of 195. That's perfect, because we're going to take it off of here, double wrap it in foil, let it rest for an hour. It's going to cook the rest of the way, resorb the juices, and then it should be perfect for eating. Let's take a look and see what we have. Well, it looks perfect. The texture is exactly what we want. The bark looks great. A nice dark mahogany color. I'd say we're ready to take it off. The meat's been resting for an hour. Let's cut into it and see what we have. That's looking perfect. You can see the texture's perfect. It's a little gelatinous almost. Got a great texture.
All the other ingredients, because that's what the recipe said to do. And I didn't want to use all the salt that the recipe called for, the tablespoon of salt. And I'm trying, I tried to do it that.
Let's see if my idea was right there. The flat is a little overdone, it's a little dry. That's okay. Let's cut into the point. So we're going to cut the flat off right where it meets the point. And this can be saved for later. Put that aside. And that's much better. That's exactly what you like. You can see here the delineation between the flat, which is on the bottom, and the point, which comes over the top, and the layer of fat in between. To cut the point, you turn it and cut right through the middle. And this is your slice of fried gold. That's the meat you want right there. And that's perfect. Slice this into about 1/4 inch slices and serve it up.
There's no tomato anything except for the V8 juice in this. It makes that nice color. Well,
Let's do an honest evaluation of the brisket. I thought the meat itself came out really, really well. It was cooked perfectly, wonderfully moist. I loved the rub. But the meat itself had a very bland flavor for some reason. The last time I cooked a brisket, it had a nice, strong flavor to it, and briskets that I have in other places have a really strong flavor too. So I don't know if it was just something with the meat itself, or if it was something that I did. Can't really tell. It'll be a great thing to compare next time we do it. One thing I did do differently this time was I cooked it with the fat side down. The first time I did it, I cooked fat side up. The bottom came out a little overcooked last time, but there were a number of issues, including my inability to properly regulate the heat. So I decided to do it with the fat side down this time to see if that made any difference. Well, I didn't overcook it, but I was also regulating the heat much better. So let me know if you have any experience with fat side up versus fat side down to see if that made any difference at all in the final product. But at any rate, it came out really well, and my wife made terrific, from scratch, Boston-style baked beans, so it was a great meal all in all. We'll catch you next time.